In WESG so far, we got another matchup between Asian rivalry. We have Hong Kong up against Japan. And we're going to look at the bans. Looks like they both banned each other's warriors. Can't fault them for that. I think Pirate Warrior needs to go.
Well, interesting thing with Shy, he actually doesn't have the Pirate Warrior. He has that mid-range warrior with the Curator.
Right. Yeah,
Super interesting list. I'm actually surprised to see that get banned. I really expected to see... in that particular matchup, I thought we would see the Rogue get banned.
From Shy.
Yeah. I
Gotcha.
thought ReneKuroi would actually try to ban the Rogue from Shy, but we'll have to see how this does pan out. And we're going to see ReneKuroi starting off on this Druid into that Reno Mage, which favors pretty well for the Japanese player here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm looking at how the rest of that warrior would fare against ReneKuroi's list, and it seems like the mid-range warrior doesn't. I mean, you know what it is. You know what it is, man. I think it's that fact that's unknown. He doesn't know what the matchups are. He doesn't know the mulligans correctly off the top of his head. So, you know what? Instead of dealing with this wild card, I'm just gonna ban it and just kind of play the normal lineups. And just take
I was trying to think that up before you got here, so we didn't really get a chance to talk about it. But I thought the Rogue was definitely going to get blocked out just based off of what Rene was bringing. But that does make sense when you look at it that way. Information
is power in a game like Hearthstone, so not having that information is a sign of weakness. And if your opponent comes in with a much more familiar deck, especially because you have a choice to play against it, can't fault them. So Reno Mage versus Druid, let me tell you, this matchup is abysmal for Reno Mage. I've played this matchup a ton from the Druid's perspective, and I've never lost. I've played like 20 practice games with some of the top players from North America, and they all think this matchup's super hard for Reno Mage to win.
Yeah, you should just be able to keep snowballing those golems by the end of the game. You can keep removing them, but you never run out of cards when you are that Jade Druid, and you can just keep making bigger and bigger golems.
Right. The way Reno Mage wins is either two ways. One, they either assemble an unstoppable burst hand, and that's actually their primary way to win. They control the board early on, they get proactive, and then they're able to finally assemble some damage. Or they grind you out through value. And that is actually a win condition they often rely upon. And so when you take out one of their primary ways to win, all of a sudden it feels like it's a little bit trickier because they're not always going to win the board against Druid.
Talk about getting value here. It looks like this brand's going to be able to stick onto the battlefield, and that means a double Kazakus trigger.
That's kind of step one to be able to win this matchup. You got to get really good scenarios like this where you can get double fives. You can even maybe spread them like 1-5, 1-10, so that way you can have a nuke option against all of Jade's.
Well, there's the 5, and I do like that as well for it, and I really do think maybe he should take that second potion as a 10. It gives him options later into the game, allow him to smooth out his hand. But it looks like he's going to go with, is that the second 5?
Yeah, it was the second 5. And he's been picking a little bit quickly. I can't really mull over every single option, but I don't mind the 5s summoning 5/5s. I think in general that's a really powerful option against Druid because they can't remove it very efficiently. And anything that involves doing AoE damage or single target removal like deal 5 damage, I'm also in favor for. So we'll take a look over those potions as the turns continue to develop. But for now, ReneKuroi, when he sees this, he's going to be pretty upset. I can't believe I let him get double Kazakus value.
But at the same time, he does still have a hand that's pretty much driving itself. He's got 5, 6, and 7 drops, so that does line up these turns. He has dealt with the Reno now, and he can clear the board if he wants to.
Yep. One thing that might actually discourage him from clearing the board is the fact that his opponent got double Kazakus potions, so it might be even in his best interest to keep this 3/3 alive in case he gets to transform one of the minions randomly.
Yeah, but he
does it anyways.
And then that Polymorph's gonna take out the Ancient
and he summons
War.
Brandon Kazakus. Oh my gosh.
This is looking really good for the Reno Mage now. I mean, we talked about how the matchup's just absolutely abysmal, but this is looking bad for the Druid.
I gotta say that ReneKuroi could have played that turn a little bit slower and think about that, because I'm not saying that trading the 3/3 into the 3/3 is wrong. I mean, that's pretty high value to keep the 5/10 very healthy. But that is one of the ways that they can swing it. And Reno Mage is so unfavored in this matchup that they need to take risks like that. 50-50 to get a huge board momentum like that is better odds than what they'll do fighting honestly.
Yeah, and now this is kind of, we're in that position right now where we may see Shy just grind it out. That was a huge swing for him. Golems only at 4/4s right now, and he does have that other potion in his hand. He has plenty of removal options.
Okay, well, the Jade pressure is building ever so slowly. It looks like he says he has to add demons to your hand. That's pretty curious to me. I guess Shy is just looking. Oh, sorry, summon a 5/5 demon. I kind of combined the bottom text with the top text.
Yeah, and then it's 2 friendly minions that died this game, which means he could be getting another Bran here.
Another Bran, another Kazakis. That's kind of funny, honestly. You don't really need... Bran doesn't actually synergize with anything right now.
Well, he has a good chance of getting... Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Kazakis' chance is actually doubled.
Because it died again. Yeah, so it kind of multiplies in on itself. But a pretty impressive board out of this Reno mage here. 3/6 going to gum it up just a little bit. He can play the Fandral into the Feral Rage, maybe look to clear up that Bran.
Let's see, I mean, that is the play that sticks out to me the most because you're able to get Fandral and clear some of the minions out. You collect on Fandral value. Azure Drake doesn't really have many good hits. There's Wrath. If he plays Living Roots, he has Living Roots. Innervate wouldn't really help much to combine with stuff either. So I'm kind of liking the Fandral Feral Rage. You know, ReneKuroi could be thinking that he needs to save Fandral for a higher value. So if he picks up another Jade Idol, if he picks up Raven Idol, if he picks up Wrath, he needs to collect higher value off the Fandral, and he might opt to play Azure Drake instead. Because realistically, the only 2 threats that are on the board is the 5/5 and Bran. So if you kind of remove everything else systematically, it's not nearly as threatening if you just play Drake and Hero Power.
Yeah, it looks like Fandral probably going to be the play here. I feel like if he did go for the Azure Drake, it just would be too slow, and Shy may be able to run away with this game. Oh,
he's at a turn. He's at a time. He has to kind of make his turn now.
I do like this line. That's going to clear Bran up. 3/6 going to be able to chuck away at one of these minions. Well, did he get full swings in, though?
I don't think he did.
Yeah, just in the nick of time, going to manage to get that Jade Golem to go into face, and that's going to be the first time he's actually gotten damage in onto Shy.
No matter what line he chose, he kind of plays into AoE and easy removal. You know, just look at how the 1 attack and the 2 attack minions able to kill off the Jade Behemoth very easily. And that kind of leads to some really nice spot removal that Shy can pick and choose how he wants to do it.
Yeah, it looks like Forgotten Torch is going to be that answer for the Jade Behemoth. And going to use the Fireball too here, which is a pretty clear signal that Shy isn't going to be going for that burn route. He's definitely going to just be looking to get value on the board.
Okay, Living Roots, you know, helpful. It helps remove the 5/2. I have Black Paw, now that's what we're talking about. Being able to summon a 5/3 with a 5/5. And of course when it dies, it summons a 6/6. So that's 16 power spread over a Death Rattle, and that's pretty hard for Reno Mage to remove. But they do have Polymorph in the deck, and that is one of the targets that they look at for. You know, one of the things that Jade Druid tries to do is bait out Polymorphs, and then they can play Aya Blackpaw. Or in this case, if Dirty Rat pulls out Aya Blackpaw, that would be huge.
Yeah, it slows down the Golem so much.
Yeah. And you have heal, and you have AoE. I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, seeing that Aya Blackpaw really was the thing where all of a sudden ReneKuroi looks like he's really back into this game. Tempo Reno, though, going to come down for Shy.
You know what it is, though? Shy says that he actually kind of wants to increase his odds of hitting like an Aya or something else that's a little bit clunky. And by hesitating with the Dirty Rat, he's saying he's trying to get its effect off, as opposed to trying to get its value. Because a lot of times when you play Dirty Rat on a low hand, you're trying to make sure that nothing bad happens. You don't want to pull out a minion. In this case, Shy actually kind of wants to pull out a minion, except he says there's 2 cards. There's a high chance that I hit nothing.
Yeah, so we haven't really seen the Druid draw through the deck too much. Like, what are the chances that the Aya is actually there? We are going to see, though, that might not pay off. ReneKuroi does have the option to play Aya out onto the battlefield right now. And I believe the Golems are up to 5/5s.
Yes, they are, and that's massive.
Yeah, we're only on turn 9 and already seeing the Golems get pretty big. It's a tall order for Shy to outvalue the Jade Druid, even after such an explosive start.
I mean, you can outvalue them to a certain point, but you can't outvalue them forever. That's the hardest part about this matchup, is that time is on Druid's side, and Reno Mage has to find a way, if it can. And I mean, now Shy is kind of full of regret. That 5/5 would not be out here. And now he's going to play Dirty Rat, and now he summons a 4/4, which is actually kind of detrimental to the board state here, because it helps make him... It helps give ReneKuroi some value trades in this position. Shy kind of got it backwards here. He needed to play the Dirty Rat the turn earlier and then have a better board position for the following turns.
Yeah, it was essentially just value for ReneKuroi there, getting that 4-4 out, because Shy doesn't have the answer. He doesn't really have too much removal, and that is a very nice draw to see right now. If you are that Druid, going to be able to get a 6-6 out behind the 3-6 taunt, and we still got Aya to deal with.
One single misstep, despite ReneMage being pretty firmly in control for almost the entire game. And now you can see how the strings are really being pulled there. Who's the one really pulling the strings here? Druid's the one being able to really apply pressure. And I mean, yeah, you can look at the fact that ReneMage can stabilize over time, but all Druid needs at this point, because he already has the board, all Druid really needs at this point is a single card draw source, like Nourish, or if you compare Gadget Stand with Jade Idols. Because the one way that you can lose, even if you're outvaluing the ReneMage, is no cards in the hand. You can only play like one Jade Idol per turn if you're drawing one per turn.
Yeah, and then just the Mage can try to 1-for-1, but Mage doesn't really have too many win conditions. Even if we can see Shy 1-for-1 all day long, eventually, like you said, time is on the Druid side, and inevitably the Druid should be able to come up with something. And we are going to see that hero power deal with the Dirty Rat.
I actually really like this trade-in. It might look like extremely low value, 5-3 trades to a 4-1. But ReneKuroi recognizes that right now Polymorph is the exact threat, and that's what I was going to talk about specifically.
Timing.
He knows that his opponent's been holding some awkward cards. He says, you've been not really doing much, and if I want to get this 7-7 out there, I need to kind of push this out just in case. And you know what? It's still called for a polymorph. You still needed to do that.
Yeah, got the guaranteed value out of Aya, right? You still progress your Golem path.
Yep.
And also, yeah, pulled that polymorph. And the board was good against removal. Getting the 7-7 kind of played around the removal still, because you think about cards like Flame Strike, and that's not going to be hit by that swipe. Not a very good draw, though, for ReneKuroi here, and this speaks to what you were saying. Just no cards in hand.
Well, I mean, he has cards in hand, but not all of them are very applicable in this situation. Swipe to kill off the Water Elemental and deal 4 damage, just way too low value. So he chooses to hold on to it, and I think it's a wise choice. Ooh, Shy plays Novice Engineer, so he plays a cycle-heavy version of ReneMage, and that kind of implies that he wants to hit, his combo pieces for burning his opponent a lot quicker, like Alexstrasza. But it's not going to be that good against Druid, because Druid's going to be pretty well equipped to deal with it.
Yeah, this Mulch just been sitting in ReneKuroi's hand for quite some time, but it is the perfect answer to this Archmage, but he's going to use the swipe instead.
I think the 3-1 is almost certainly dead. So you feel like you can use the swipe now. Save the Mulch for Alexstrasza or some of these other big threats that might come out.
Just get the value out of that body before it gets pinged down. The 3 damage definitely isn't going to be that important here.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Shy knew that the Archmage Antonidas was doomed from the beginning because he tossed it into a 9-power board. I gotta ask, what's his game plan?
I really feel like you don't have one. We talked about the 2 main win conditions for the Mage in this lineup, either outvaluing or getting off this bursty combo. Bursty combo definitely no longer possible. Not enough burn in this deck. We do see pretty much all of the burn that Shy is going to have. It's going to be about 12 damage. He's going to have to put some of that into the board as spot removal. And it looks like the value game may be maybe too late here.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the question that I've been asking when Druid first started being able to climb back into the game, is what is the way that you're able to win the game and close it out? Because you can't really fight them on the value. They're going to summon 8/8s, 9/9s, and no one gets worse from this point on. And, you know, I feel like you have to play a little bit optimistically. You have to feel like you have to get better value off of the Antonidas. You draw with Novice Engineer, you ping off the 3-1, you try to see if you can fight for value, because that Antonidas needs to stick.
Yeah, that Antonidas is like, what are you really... Are you playing to win by playing this Antonidas right now? Are you just playing the Antonidas to play on curve? Have you already given up?
How much time has Druid given the Mage, too? This is the 4th turn in a row where he's passed with 6 or more mana available to his opponent.
Yeah, he literally has he drew the swipe, then the Feral Rage, and then pretty much everything that you see in his hand right now. And they're all just reactive cards that he doesn't need right now. But with the Racine coming down right now, he does have the removal to deal with it nice and easy. assuming we will see that's a little bit of gas into his hand, Ancient of War.
This is what's really annoying, is that you actually kind of want to develop onto the board right now, but doing so costs you Wrath inefficiently, and you need Wrath to cycle. If you play Ancient of War, Wrath, Living Roots, it feels like you're a little bit too all in on this Ancient of War, and if your opponent's holding Forbidden Flame or some way to easily remove Ancient of War, you've kind of outvalued yourself just now, and you have to be waiting a few more turns in order to win the game. But realistically, I don't mind that as much, because I feel like time is again on Druid's side.
Yeah, I mean, let's say even like with the Torch in the hand, Torch Flame Strike to try to remove the Ancient of War, you're still pulling 2 cards away from the Mage, and your cards are just going to matter so much more because your golems are going to be absolutely massive. I don't mind this play. I do agree with you. It would be very nice if you're running ReneKuroi and you can actually cycle, get another card off of Wrath. There's the Pyro Blast.
Oh, wait, hold on. Maybe Pyro is actually ways you can win through damage. You know, I kind of like not playing Pyro Blast on this 5/10, and maybe just playing Doomsayer to see if you can bait out some of that damage, because now you all of a sudden have a win condition if Alexstrasza comes into the hand.
Yeah, now really questioning why Shy opted to use some of those fireballs as spot removal if he could have gotten away with it, having cards like Flame Strike.
Yeah, Flame Strike's not that great against, you know, 8/8s and 9/9s.
Yeah, at this point, Flame Strike's completely dead nourished. Definitely a card that you do want to see here.
Yeah, that's kind of the big one that we've been waiting for the entire time. And more Cycle, more Jades.
That's the first Jade Idol that we have seen, too, so...
Is it?
Wouldn't feel too bad. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the first one we saw, so you don't feel bad just windmill slamming the body.
Yeah, this is pretty huge, though. The fact that ReneKuroi is thinking about using Feral Rage offensively, which means that if Shy draws Alexstrasza, this is still a game that Reno Mage can win, and he chooses to do it.
Is that greedy? Do you think that's a little greedy? Or?
I think it is. I don't know if it's greedy. I think that's actually the opposite of greedy. I think it's a little bit too liberal with your usage of it.
Yeah, just too aggressive.
Yeah. And now Shy is very clearly on a warpath. He saw the Feral Rage, and all he needs to do is get to Alexstrasza, and he's getting more card draw. He's drawn 4 cards this turn.
We've seen the Inkmaster Solia, but no Alexstrasza yet. That really does change things, having that Pyroblast in the list.
Wow, he also plays Elite Starseeker. Never mind. That is another way you can also win, too. If Elite Starseeker hits a string of legendaries that are amazing, I'm talking about Deathwing and things like Deathwing.
Yeah.
You can actually continue to change the momentum of that game, too. So, you know what? Shy has some options at its disposal. It's not completely hopeless.
Yeah,
as I saw.
This body is definitely going to be hard for him to deal with, and now that is 2 golems that can come down this turn with Mana Despair. Can also use that Wild Growth to get another card deeper into his deck.
Yeah, I'm pretty in favor of cycling Wild Growth first. Or, you know what? ReneKuroi says I'd rather Jade Idol and try to cycle into something else first. But if you're going to use Jade Idol to shuffle cards into your deck, you better damn make sure that you have card draw to back it up. Because if you shuffle 3 cards and you're only drawing 1 Jade Idol per turn, I mean, yeah, it is an 8/8 and a 9/9 and a 10/10, but you're kind of stunting your ability to close out the game quickly.
Yeah, I really feel like you have every reason to play the 8/8 out right now. The 5/8 hasn't gotten removed for quite some time, so we are going to see those Jade Idols get shuffled on in, though. Wild Growth might be able to pick one of them up. Yeah,
I mean, he does have Wild Growth as a potential cycle source. He also still could be having that, waiting for that Gadget Stand Auctioneer and not playing that Wild Growth until then. So what he's doing is he's waiting for the Gadget Stand to get value off of that. And
the weird thing to that route, though, is wouldn't you want to wait to actually draw the Auctioneer before you pitch those back into your deck? Because now the chances of drawing the Auctioneer are lower by quite a few cards.
Yeah, you'd think so. That's just not how it's working out right now. Shy looks like he's going to use his Fireball to kind of stay alive here because, you know, as much as we'd love to save this Pyroblast and Roaring Torch for killing our opponents, we have to make sure we don't die and pop our Ice Block. And this is the best way to maximize the damage over the course of turns. Now, ReneKuroi kind of stuck in that position we were talking about. He has another way to draw, but this might be his last source. Oh, that's huge! Azure Drake is a big draw. Okay, so now all of a sudden the board is a real threat.
That's kind of the thing. You can almost do no wrong as the Druid right now. You throw him into your deck, you draw him a little bit later, you get to drop a 9/9. drop the. I mean, you're really sitting in a very good position as a Druid.
But now he actually can pop the ice block. Before it was a little bit suspect, and Shy is going to Pyroblast.
Now it's all on Elise Star Seeker. Like you said, you need to get an absolutely bonkers legendary to pop out of that map, but that is a tall order.
So Druid is pretty deep in his deck, and there's like no more Jades left. Sorry, in terms of there's no more Jades in the hand.
Well,
maybe Reno Mage can pull it back again.
I mean, you're kind of at the point in the game where Rene's going to completely thin his deck out and then just be cycling over and over again, dropping as many, like pretty much dropping one golem per turn.
I want to see a charge here from the Druid the Claw. I think there's no incentive to taunt it. When you charge, you kind of put the Reno Mage on a very fine claw because you put him down to 8, and you have 8 on the board.
Yeah,
right now, you don't even have an ice block
extra 2 health. Yeah.
He's ready to use the Flame Strike. You know, and now with Reno Mage,
you've seen pretty much the full removal suite.
Kind of stabilized to a large degree. Not necessarily completely yet, but like compared to what it should be, where it's like 10-10s, 11-11s knocking on the door.
Yeah, but I mean, there aren't that many cards that Elise is actually going to provide, right? I mean, probably 3-4 legendaries is what we're going to see alongside the Golden Monkey.
Wow. Shy chooses not to play the Thanos. I think both these players are very low on cards, so Shy doesn't want to draw too much, and when he plays Thanos, he needs to make sure that it can hit for AoE damage. I think he's trying to see if he gets Blizzard or if he gets something equivalent to that. He can get that extra spell damage, which might be relevant.
There we go. We're going to see that cycle off the Wrath, so that's going to open up the avenue to potential Jade Idols to come down this time.
Yeah, this is finally the push that Druid needs, which, you know, in hindsight, we were talking about how ReneKuroi could have popped the ice block this turn, but realistically, does it even truly matter if Reno Mage doesn't have a way to win? And it really doesn't have a way to win, trust me.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, the Deathwing would even be too slow here. We're gonna see this.
I like to see both go face in this position. I don't see this reason to trade.
Yeah, I don't feel like the trading is necessary either. You want to pop that ice block as quick as you can.
But I mean, at this point, ReneKuroi, he's just giving. The reason why I keep saying like to go face is because it's not because I'm just trying to meme with a smork, but it's more about the fact that you're giving Reno Mage time to pull a rabbit out of their hat. It's like it feels like you set yourself up for this position of like, well, what happens if he gets the Golden Monkey and Deathwing, and then you just kind of like get wrecked?
Yeah, you're opening up that path, and I kind of feel like that is just what happens when you start a game out like this one. ReneKuroi was on the back foot, and that causes some players to think defensively, right? And always be a little bit scared to maybe go in with that charge, just send the 4-4 in and try to pop the ice block offensively.
And I think Shy conceded a little bit too early, too. He had 2 sources of card draw in his hand. First of all, he shouldn't be holding that Thanos for that long, I think.
Yeah.
He could have played that Thanos a while ago. But I think also playing that Acolyte, pinging it, potentially getting... Or playing the Thanos, pinging it, potentially getting the Golden Monkey map, shuffling it, get the Golden Monkey, that still give you an out. And when a tournament with this kind of stakes, $300,000 on the line, Rich.
Play the game out.
Play the game.
Always play the game out,
Play
especially
the
when you
game.
just threw you threw a Golden Monkey chance in your deck. Like, that is a chance to pull the rabbit out of the hat.
Right.
I totally agree with you there. That is something that you want to play out. And now we are going to see Shy falling 1 game behind in this series against ReneKuroi.
I get it. You know, there's a lot of times you don't want to put yourself in that emotional stress. You don't want to tilt yourself. You don't want to expose yourself unnecessarily long to like just a game that you're inevitably losing.
And all things
it's a
said,
very unlikely situation that you can win.
Yeah, and all things said, that was a game that going into it, we were like, okay, Shy most likely is going to lose this one. This is an abysmal matchup for him, and he did look very strong. He almost, at the beginning of the game, we almost called it in his favor. Now ReneKuroi not getting quite the start he wants with this Shamanless, but is going to find a pretty powerful 1-drop. Fire Blast most likely going to be the choice here.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking about that game again. I feel like Shy definitely could have taken a little bit more proactive approach, and that's the only way you can win against the Druid. But maybe this game can be different here. I think against Shaman, Reno Mage is an expert at dissecting it in every single archetype, whether it's control, whether it's aggro, whether it's mid-range Shaman.
Yeah, and especially when you have one of the aggro lists, the more aggressive Shamans have a relatively slow start with what this deck is capable of. I mean, of course, we are seeing this powerful 2-drop in the Jade Claws, but not having any Pirates early, not having the Trog early, that gives Shy a little bit of leeway to get very good value out of a card like his Volcanic Potion.
Yeah, I wonder if that makes Shy feel comfortable of, taking it slow, maybe hero powering instead. Because sometimes when you feel like you're under the gun, you have to play the Thanos out. You have to draw into like Volcanic Potion or into other stuff. But now he actually has some luxury to play around with some of his health.
Yeah, and we did see him use that hero power there, and I really do like that line. I think time is somewhat on Shy's side right now. He's not in the position where he has to be throwing down cards to cycle to find an answer. Instead, just set himself up so he's in a good place to pull the trigger when need be. Interesting choice for ReneKuroi here.
Yeah, I mean, Flame Tongue doesn't seem that great, but it's kind of like the Abusive Sergeant effect.
Play that you really have here. I feel like you kind of need to play the Flame Tongue Totem, and also the one nice thing about playing the Flame Tongue Totem here is sometimes it'll pull a spell that it really shouldn't. Just because, also if a Pirate does come down next turn, the positioning is right, so Patches will be able to instantly charge in with that buff from the Flame Tongue Totem.
Yeah, I think what's important is that it sounds again like a simplistic thing, but you need to follow your curve. If you drew a Flame Wreath Faceless, you're not playing the Flame Tongue the following turn, which means that you're missing out on 4 damage. And if you say you drew another play and you couldn't play it the following turn, then that's 8 damage. It's like all this damage you could have squeezed in, assuming the Flame Tongue survived and assuming you drew the necessary tool.
Shy going to develop his Kazakus here and take that 5-drop. I actually didn't
4 damage
get to
AoE.
see it.
He had that option.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would like to see either take the 5/5 or deal 5 damage. Deal 5 damage means you're much more secure against the Flame Wreath Faceless, which is something that you're very mindful of.
Especially when you don't have the Polymorph in your hand already.
Right.
I think that would definitely be one of the stronger potions to take. Gives you an answer to just about everything. Now, with the overload from Feral Spirits, maybe hesitant to develop them, but
I mean, it is a turn before you can play Kazakus, the potion. You did coin it out, so you have one more turn to get the damage in. And Feral Spirits, if it's 3 mana, deal 4 damage, maybe 6 if you're able to get that extra Flame Tongue hit in. It might be worth it because you're trying to squeeze out as much damage as possible. The other option is just a Jade Lightning, stay on the curve. Just try to see if you can squeeze in that extra damage while being mana efficient.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind that either.
I wouldn't mind the Jade Lightning. I mean, you also do get to develop a Golem here, and it's going to be next to that Flame Tongue Totem. And it protects your Flame Tongue Totem.
It's true.
All right, well, he's going all in right now. Going to completely just get all the overloads. Feral Spirit and Lightning Bolt being used.
Yeah, so this is one of the awkward scenarios where Shy has to just hope that his opponent doesn't have anything that strong to follow up, because he is overloaded for 3. Shy has picked up the Dirty Rat. That's not a bad card in this position.
Yeah, I mean, what would you read here most likely after seeing the line of play? I mean, you saw the Flame Tongue Totem come out, so you pretty much know that your opponent didn't draw the 2-drop, so you might get it for free, but it doesn't trade well onto the board.
Chooses instead just Fireball instead of potentially pulling out a minion for his opponent. It chooses to gain guaranteed health that way. Fireball is essentially gain a +4 health in this position. And ReneKuroi now knows that his opponent's coming up on the Kazakus potion turn, so either he should equip the weapon or hero power. He should try to avoid the Totem Golem because he knows that Shy is going to try to do the 5-mana potion. And he knows that Shy picked really fast. He snap called a 4-mana AoE or 4 damage AoE. It was almost so quick that you couldn't even see what he picked from our side as the casters. And I feel like if you're ReneKuroi, you can kind of make that read like, Yeah, I think he has at 4 damage AoE.
And you know what the you definitely know what the ideal scenario is from that potion. But Totem Golem gonna be played there. I feel like that might be an ill-informed decision here.
I mean, we know that it's the wrong play, but and you can't really necessarily fault ReneKuroi. He says, you know what? The thing is,
I'm gonna play like he doesn't have it.
If he doesn't have it, I could actually lethal him next turn if he can't deal with my board. Say he plays only Azure Drake. I actually can kill him. So I'm going to try to go for it instead. Gets punished. And that's the life of an aggro shaman versus Reno mage. You just have to kind of feel like he doesn't have it half the time. But sometimes you can play around it. He did have a choice that round.
It stings a little bit extra when you do draw that Tunnel Trog, and your refill could have been Tunnel Trog into the Totem Golem. That feels really good. But Spirit Claws can get developed alongside this nice and easy. Also getting a little bit of additional hero value out of that hero power.
Yeah, this is extremely painful. The difference between having that Totem Golem and not is massive.
How do you like this line here, playing the Jade Lightning just to go face and develop the Golem?
He feels the pressure of Reno Jackson. He feels like this is he needs to win now in the next couple of turns. I personally think that weaving in the hero power over 2 turns is really powerful as well, because you need every single ounce of damage you can get. I think he's also really afraid of Spirit Claws getting weapon removed. He thought about doing it for a sec, which I was completely okay with. But he doesn't really want it to go down.
Yeah, not too many ways to actually get it beefed up to its full power. Azure Drake being the card that he is looking for. And this Tunnel Trog's not going to be able to do it on its own. The 2/6 Dirty Rat is definitely going to prove difficult to get through at this stage in the game for the aggressive shaman.
Yeah, and the problem also becomes when ReneKuroi sees that the Mistress of Mixtures is on the board. He's going to have to do 14 more points of damage. How does Shy do that? Oh, sorry, how's he going to get through that through Shy? Like, he only has 3 damage through Spirit Claws and Hero Power. He can try to boost that through a spell damage minion like Azure Drake, but that's only going to get completely wiped off the board.
Yeah, he does go ahead and ram that 2/2 into the Dirty Rat. So
cute, I like it.
Yeah, Mixture of Pain not going to be able to go off this turn.
You know, if I'm Shy, I'd probably ping my own 2/2 as well.
Yeah, we're going to see just that happen. And then all of his minions going to go on and rumble through, dealing some damage to the aggro shaman.
You know, if he had Lava Burst, Shy could have also been playing too greedy. He could have flat Fire Lance portaled his own 2/2 to make sure he heals. And I know that it's probably a little bit too next level to do that, but at the same time, ReneKuroi is only 4 points off from lethal. It could have been close.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if he plugs that Jade Lightning into face and gets a really good draw next turn, he still does have the potential to win if we see Shy whiff.
There also
there also is that ping, though.
Yeah. You know, I also feel like you might as well play the Tunnel Trog and try to get some stuff on the board. It's very clear the Mistress of Mixture is dying anyways. I think stalling your opponent would be pretty important here.
You know your opponent is, in pretty much every scenario, going back up to 8 health, even after you do go face.
Yeah. There's not much you're saving with the Tunnel Trog.
On the other side of that argument, there's not much that it's accomplishing. But like you said, you just need to make something stick.
This is also one of those things, too, where we can kind of nitpick. Remember, there's a turn where he could have played Spirit Claws and Hero Power instead of Jade Lightning. He missed 2 damage. That 2 damage is extremely relevant in this position.
Yeah, it adds up. It's like a card that you just never got to cast out of your hand. And now we are going to see, okay, yeah, that's just not going to be enough.
Just losing the game with inches. And they ended up going to Shy, and it's a 1-1 tied series.
All tied up now. We do have the potential for that Rogue Mirror matchup.
Yeah, I have to imagine that ReneKuroi still feels good about playing Shaman in this position and just queuing it up, because it's good against Rogue and a Warlock. So Shy's probably going to have to queue his best deck against that, which means the Reno Warlock, I think, is probably slightly better against it. Rogue has gotten much better fighting Shaman early game.
Yeah, now that Rogue has an early game of its own with the same Pirates, it can just get a faster start sometimes than the aggressive Shaman and allow it to just go off in the mid game in a way that the Shaman never can. But I think I do agree with you there that the Warlock might be the move. But Shy going to decide to go in on the Rogue. this is a much more explosive start from ReneKuroi here, too. We're seeing that small-time Buccaneer and the Spirit Claws to back it up.
Yeah, the Spirit Claws is pretty important, not just to get the damage from the small-time Buccaneer, but also to control the Rogue's opening, because Rogue can also be the one being aggressive. We've seen a lot of games where Rogue ends up cold-blooding their small-time Buccaneer, going face, Shaman doesn't have the removal, and they got punished instead.
Well, that got even better for ReneKuroi after the mulligan. He managed just to pick up the South Sea deckhand as well. But yeah, very important point. Like, Spirit Claws is not just like that 1-3 weapon that you're hoping you turn into the 3-3, right? It takes out patches. It takes out a bunch of the pirates that the Rogue does have. Backstab, going to easily deal with the Buccaneer.
Yeah, that would be nuts if you had Van Cleave, because you have backstab, coin Van Cleave, make an 8-8 on turn 2, or turn 1, excuse me. Turn 2, you can't deal with it as the Shaman.
Yeah, right now, this is an interesting position. I feel like you really do want to develop the Tunnel Trog, because your Pirates package is now just a little bit off, because you lost the Cornerstone small-time Buccaneer, so maybe develop the Tunnel Trog and put the Spirit Claws next to it.
I kind of like just Totem Golem, because Totem Golem is still a 3-4, and you get it out onto the board. Tunnel Trog, if you play it next turn, if you play Totem Golem next turn, becomes a 2-3. So you kind of miss out on damage, and I want to be as aggressive as possible against Rogue. Give them the least amount of time to try to recover.
Yeah, I feel like that is a very easy thing to, because that 1-2 punch is just so ingrained in your brain as the aggressive Shaman that you're like, oh,
right.
I definitely want to get the Tunnel Trog out first, even though, like you pointed out, might not necessarily be the best move here, but still going to be able to use his mana very efficiently here on turn 3, getting out 2 minions, getting a little bit of extra power on the Tunnel Trog as well. And now the big decision, whether or not ReneKuroi wants to expend a charge of his weapon. I feel like in this scenario, yeah, you want to just get rid of it. You have Jade Claws to follow suit.
Well, you know what? When he plays the South Sea Deckhand, he actually dealt more damage this turn than he would have played in Totem Golem, because he would have been overloaded for 1, so he only had 2 mana available. So actually the line that ReneKuroi took this way gained him 1 extra damage. So you know what? He actually made the right play. Good for him. You know, I was kind of thinking traditionally just like, I just play a tempo card, but
yeah,
he actually thought about squeezing that South Sea Deckhand. I was only purely thinking about the Spirit Claws Tunnel Trog interaction.
Well, this is Shy's time to shine. He's going to get this questing adventure nice and big on the board. Has an Eviscerate to deal with that 3-4 minion. And he's just really cleaning up the entire house here. Gonna leave the Tunnel Trog behind.
Single spell damage totem could wreck that. Or you could just play Jade Claws. You feeling the 1-4, you just want to Jade Claws it up.
I think you have to Jade Claws here. Yeah, it's a guaranteed answer, right? So
I mean, we're in China, but it is a free country. You're allowed to do whatever you want. You control your own destiny.
Go with the Jade Claws, ReneKuroi.
You sure?
You have no choice.
You're not feeling lucky, Will?
No choice. Oh, now we're pulling that out. Oh, man, my mom's going to be so mad at you when she hears that.
Sorry.
Sorry, Rich's mom. All right, well, we're going to see ReneKuroi decide to do just that.
I haven't talked to her since last Friday night.
No, me neither.
That's right. She always speaks fondly of you.
Yeah, she likes me.
Do you want to?
And you. She likes you as well.
She does me. Yeah, she thinks of me as a second son. I'm kind of interested in the difference between playing the Azure Drake versus the small-time Buccaneer in this position. The fact that not Tunnel Trog, the small-time Buccaneer actually dies straight up to the Jade Claws. So Shy choosing to be a little bit more resource conservative, like wants to save that coin in case he picks up Auctioneer.
Yeah, I mean, now he's in the position where he kind of made that first big push, right? He made the first big push with the questing adventure. Now wanting to save that piece to maybe go in for another push a little bit later, but because the aggressive Shaman has slowed down quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much got burned, and he's very far away from finishing the game. So this is a position where Azure Drake is pretty much the mightiest lion in the kingdom. Or Tomb Pillager. Both of those you can't really go wrong with. Tomb Pillager is just a little bit off curve, so I think it makes more sense to fit the Azure Drake in. But look, a second Azure Drake.
A pretty great card to see when you just played an Azure Drake.
All right, that's the kind of card we're looking for, though. Aya Blackpaw.
It's crazy how much Aya Blackpaw changed this deck. Like, it really just adds so much to it.
It's not even necessarily supposed to be an aggro card.
It's not. It's not an aggro card.
But what it is, it's just like Mega Shredder.
It's a more consistent shredder in a lot of ways, right? And it really does allow you to top out the curve, and I feel like it's the main reason that we're not seeing this list run Doomhammer anymore, because it just deals the damage out faster.
Yeah, and it's sturdier too, and so many people run weapon removal that you kind of have to be holding Doomhammer, and the Rockbiter nerves are relevant. You can't really squeeze that 7 mana 16 damage or 6 mana 10 damage. You have to kind of wait an extra turn, which is the difference.
So now ReneKuroi has to decide is he going to play the Feral Spirits here or just jam the Eye of Blackpaw. Looks like jamming the Eye of Blackpaw is going to be the move here. And already, Golem's up to 3 attack and toughness, which is quite big for this list.
I mean, they do get up to 6 when you have 2 Jade Claws, Aya, and the Jade Lightnings. So, you know, you're halfway there. So when you now all of a sudden, you know, top decking a Jade Claws isn't nearly as bad as it should be. You know, a lot of times you're like, oh god, a 2/2 weapon. But if it comes with the 4/4 attached to it, that ain't half bad.
Not bad at all. Yeah, that is the interesting thing about the aggressive Shaman list now, is the weapons are so good early, and sometimes they feel like dead draws a little bit later in the game. But that's one of the cool things about the Golems. It does allow you to kind of smooth out those draws in the later game.
You know, this sounds kind of silly, but I don't mind sapping the Aya. You can do 5 damage to the face, and you put your opponent down to 16 with 9 on the board, and you have Leroy in hand. I mean, that is a recipe for success.
Yeah, it buys you a good amount of time. It also does buy you that extra 4/4 coming down a little bit later, but that's honestly pretty slow.
Yeah, and I think one of the big problems is that ReneKuroi does actually have... Oh, he's not going face.
What do you think of the sap when you don't go face, though? Kind of seems that you kind of went halfway there on an all-in play.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of like going face because then you put your opponent at 16. You have 9 on the board, and you have Leroy in the hand, so that's 16 damage follow-up.
You start a race that you can almost guarantee that you win by using the sap there. Clearing the board makes it a little bit of a different scenario.
What if you just fight for value? Like, you play Aya, summon a 4/4, now you just like lightning bolt the 5/1, and all of a sudden you're just like winning on board against Rogue.
Yeah, Aya allows the Shaman to have that opportunity. There aren't going to be too many card draws to really back it up, but you definitely are taking the board in this moment. And with only 17 health, you can close the game out with a board like this.
And 1 sap's gone, and sometimes Rogue doesn't have the 2nd sap.
This is going to be a very important turn here for Shy, trying to go off with that Auctioneer. And pretty decent support for it here.
Yeah, needs to get backstab. Prep is really nice. So that's at least 5 cards being drawn this turn. And a backstab as well. It's huge. You can backstab the 5/3.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, and you're most likely going to prep that Fan of Knives.
You can also backstab the 4/4, so you can only leave Aya. That also might even be slightly better because then you don't have 2 targets you have to hit.
Other prep being drawn as well. Looks like Shy's going to be able to work through most of this deck.
He picked up
Sap's very big.
Yeah, picked up the sap. And I think this is probably going to be the lights out here because Gadgetan was able to hit everything that needed to hit.
Yeah, he got all of the pieces to really do the work. You're going to get the Cold Bloods and the Conceal here.
All right, so Shy going off. He can even squeeze in the Small-Time Buccaneer and the Swashbuckler. Running out of time here just because he doesn't have enough seconds in the turn to do everything he wants at a reasonable pace. But this should be it.
Yeah, and now he has that Questing Adventurer too. If something happened to go very wrong, which is pretty much impossible, he could make another push. But it looks like Lethal is going to be on the board, hidden for Shy here. Maelstrom Portal not going to do enough to clean that one up.
Is there an opportunity to do something wonky here? I mean, he has Feral Spirits.
Like
Let's say he gets Taunt Totem.
You play the Feral Spirits, and that blocks. It blocks all the damage from coming in, basically.
Well, if he Hero Powers
instead of playing the 5/5.
Well, I mean, and I'm saying if Shy just hero powers, the 3-2 is able to go through. But, I mean, we know with Flame Tongue Totem and Leroy in the hand, and with that Viscerate, he had way over lethal. And that's going to wrap up the game. So Shy goes to a 2-1 lead. The Rogue able to beat the aggro Shaman. Very important game in this series.
Yeah, now, if you're ReneKuroi, you're left with that decision, hey, am I going to stick to the Shaman or am I going to go to the Rogue? I think it's the right play to stick to the Shaman here when faced up against that Warlock. Would you agree?
Well, I mean, I think the Reno Warlock tends to get bullied around these days. I don't really think that it's favored against most things. But the one thing that I think about Reno Warlock is I don't think it's completely locked out. There's some decks that are great but have terrible matchups. You look at Reno Mage, really good against most things, but it has a couple of awful matchups. You look at Jade Druid, same thing. Awful matchups. Even Shaman. Shaman has some pretty bad matchups too. But
that's
Reno
one of the things that's great about Conquest, though, right? You see those decks shine in certain scenarios. We saw that Druid deck, like you said, it has bad matchups, but we saw it shine just a few minutes ago.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that I feel like Reno Warlock doesn't have any like super hard counters. Like it's kind of a soft 45% against the field generally. Like sometimes it's 40% against certain matchups, but it's not like super favored against anything, nor does it feel like heavily unfavored. So you always have a chance to win.
Yeah, all the tools are in there somewhere. It's just a matter if you're going to be able to find them in time. And once again, ReneKuroi in a position where he's not having that explosive start may actually give this Warlock a little bit of time to dig through the deck and find the right pieces. Doomsayer going to come down here.
Hold on, he had Patches turn 1. I was told that Patches on turn 1 is the most OP thing.
Yo, that card's so OP when you get to play him on turn 1. Yeah, it did get to charge in and deal like 2 damage this game.
3.
Pretty sick Patches.
1 mana, 3 damage.
Oh wow.
Is there anything else that efficient? Is there any 1 mana card that could deal 3 damage?
That's pretty insane. Let's think of a few of them. Brand Bronzebeard coming out, and yeah, he does have priority here too, which is nice. But Brand Faceless, pretty dirty card.
Another opportunity where he got Kazakus potion twice by just playing a naked Ran on the board.
Hey, yeah, that has happened twice here.
All right, well, he's got the ability to transform that 7/7 into a sheep. Kind of like that option. The problem is that if you pick Mystic Wool first, it transforms before the AoE if you pick up the second one. So if you say you pick up the Mystic Wool and then you picked up the AoE, it would transform potentially a minion and then do the 4 damage, which would be redundant. Looks like he picked up the gain 7 armor, I think, and now he has an option of either summon 5/5, which is pretty reasonable. Ooh, 4 damage AoE there. And 5 damage there, Heart of Fire.
And that's something that answers that Faceless that's already on the board very well.
Well, it seems like Faceless is going to get answered either way because he's going to want to trade into probably the Brand. I think Brand is way too threatening.
Yeah, he kind of needs to get rid of it here.
Right.
Quite a few options, though, here from ReneKuroi as far as what to play this turn. But like you said, I think you need to trade into the Brand in pretty much every scenario.
But then you're just opening yourself up to be disappointed. Because the Kazakus potion had 4 options. He's just going for it. What a champion. Yeah, man. He says, you know what, I'm in such a terrible spot. I'm just going to hit face with the 7/7.
Yeah, you're down right now. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to rumble and smork. So,
but that opens up to a Siphon Soul straight up. Now he doesn't have to use a Kazakus potion.
Yeah, now you just get to wait until the board gets really bad to use the Kazakus potion. It's starting to look really good for Shy here. He may be able to close it out.
I don't really see how ReneKuroi has a good hand in this situation. He's really got to pull himself together with an Azure Drake hitting into something nice.
He has to find a way to bait out all this AoE that's in Shy's hand. And I don't think your lone Finley Murgleton next to an Azure Drake is going to be enough to get any of those Kazakus potions here.
If he got Life Tap, he actually still had a chance to be able to get draw into a lot of burn and finish it out. But now he's just got Rogue Dagger, which is, 2 damage for 2 mana, but you have to spread it over 2 turns. Not exactly the most efficient. He's either looking for 100 hero power or Life Tap as his primary first choices.
Also, too, with Shy right now, he's getting very close to being able to play that Dirty Rat into one of the Kazakus potions, grab
Brand.
Yeah, with Brand. Literally grabbing 2 minions out of ReneKuroi's deck and then just killing them. That's just one turn away here. Now trying to figure out what he is going to do to the board.
Yeah, it looks like Shy actually picked one of the potions that said survive 2 minions. So
get a free tempo Doomsayer, huh?
yeah, I guess what ends up happening is you either kill the Doomsayer or you let it pop and he gets a free development onto the board with Abyssal Enforcer or, you know, the Kazakus Potion plus something else. I think he's going to save Kazakus Potion because it's his only reliable AoE that's not Abyssal Enforcer.
Yeah, now he's in a position, though, where he doesn't have the brand, so actually using the Dirty Rat's like a little less awesome. I really like that line of getting the Dirty Rat down, pulling out 2 minions, and instantly smiting them with an AoE.
There is a board clear here if ReneKuroi uses his South Seas with his Flame Tongues. It is 7 damage exactly onto the Doomsayer and 4 on the brand, but I guess he doesn't want to lose that damage.
He's just going to jam it all right into face. And this has just kind of been the way ReneKuroi has decided to play it. Every time it's just like, oh, I'm just going to go face.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, now we're going to see that Doomsayer find the end nice and easy, clearing the board. And that's a pretty good card to be drawn here. Twilight Drake going to come down as a 4/8 off the top.
Yeah, I think Shy is looking for Reno more than anything else, but he's coming close enough that Draxus might be a legitimate heal, because you can tell that ReneKuroi is a little bit desperate. He pretty much just showed that he's just going to go ham as much as he can onto his opponent from this position, and now you're starting to see the downsides of the Rogue hero power. With Spirit Claws being drawn, it almost feels useless.
Yeah, also it's just like how much burn are you going to be able to find here to actually close out this damage? Pretty much every minion that you do play is going to be dealt with by the board that Shy's managed to create, and still 1 Kazakus Potion in his pocket to deal with it as well. Dirty Rat, still pretty valid option too to fog up the board.
I kind of like Dirty Rat in this position because you can Kazakus Potion afterwards.
Oh, said just a Kazakus Potion, get that armor as well.
It's unlikely that he has a minion that he can't do.
Yeah. Hey, now you can play Spirit Claws though. That feels kind of good. Aya Blackpaw, can you save the day yet again?
Well, she didn't actually save it.
She hasn't actually saved any days.
She tries.
She definitely does try.
It's about heart and effort.
Thanks, Aya, for trying.
And Draxus is a 7 heal in this position too. Do you feel good enough to Draxus? Maybe not.
Dirty Rat, okay.
I mean, Spellbreaker on Aya is also pretty strong.
Yeah, because you can deal with the 5/3 pretty easily.
He also wanted to tap. Like, you always can tell. It's like, ah, crap, I forgot to tap.
Yeah, it's just like I already played cards, didn't tap, but at the end of the day, no punish there for him. Managing to clear up this. Oh, doesn't actually trade into the 5/3. Just going to let Dirty Rat do his job, hiding behind that taunt shield.
Yeah, and looks like the 5/3 is going to be able to just clear off Dirty Rat, but nothing else really substantiating itself. And Shy just feels like he's at the finish line to wrap up the series here. Yeah,
that 7 armor really put him out of reach. And he does have the option to...
Wow, all right.
Yeah, just play the Reno, honestly. I don't see any reason not to.
The game wasn't out of reach before, it certainly is now, and power overwhelming doesn't even really matter. As soon as this Jackson comes down, I think ReneKuroi should understand that this game is no longer his to fight for.
Hey, but I have respected the amount of opportunity ReneKuroi found to go face throughout the duration of this match. You know, sometimes you just gotta go ham.
Yeah, he tried his best, but it wasn't enough, and Shy takes the series 3-1, proving his position to advance through the groups. So we're going to take a look at the standings in just a moment. But, you know, my hat's off to Shy. I think he definitely played pretty well that series. I don't really see any outstanding glaring errors in terms of his overall game plan. But then again, he just brought kind of, you know, the decks that were pretty good. The one thing that is still a mystery to me is how good is Reno Warlock. And I do want to say that Game 4, Shaman drew pretty awfully. It had patches turn 1. You know, and then turn 2, had to play Thaunos on curve.
ReneKuroi kind of had some bad beats with his draws on that Shaman time and time again.
Wow, that was his first loss in the group. No, second loss, second loss. That's his last match of the day, and that's Shy's second to last. So the last match that we have to go through to finish up Group C is Shy versus Nesteban. By the way, Dutch Boy still sitting at 0-5.
Oh, man, I just don't understand how that happened.
50-50.
I do not understand how that happened. I'm going to be completely honest. I just do not understand how that happened. I got to cast over him playing a little bit earlier. He looked really good.
But at least he won some games, right? He didn't go like 0-3 5 times in a row.
He did win games. One of the things I want to say about Shy, too, we didn't get to see the deck, but I'm curious to see this mid-range warrior break out a little bit here. Yeah. Not too many people bringing a list like that.
It's been banned multiple times.
Yeah.
So people are afraid of that mid-range warrior. I mean, we'll see if it ends up being a factor. Maybe he ends up carrying it over to the top 12 if he makes the playoffs, which looks like he's in pretty good position to do so.
Yeah, I think it's mathematically impossible for him to not move out of the group, right? So, yeah.
All right, so we're going to have one more match of the day. Nox is going to join me on the cast. And Des, thank you so much, Rich, for stopping by. Have a good night. And until then, we'll be back with more Hearthstone action to wrap up day number 2.
If you want control,